the meaning of a stump speech. And it's a very, very splendid stump it is too. Jim, thank you for being our candidate. Thank you for taking this on. And thank you for being the authentic voice of everyone who wants to see a different, fairer, more equal, better country. Somebody who does a very important and valuable job every day is just the kind of person that ought to be a Labour candidate and ought to be a Labour MP. And I look forward to the day you're elected. Rachel pointed out, the issues of how communities are treated all across Britain are very, very important, because we're a party of the whole country. We have nearly 600,000 individual members of the Labour Party, the largest political party anywhere in Europe of the left. We have 3 million affiliated members. We are reaching out to every community in this country. That means rural communities where there is a great deal of hidden poverty. Just because you live in a beautiful village with a picture postcard view that could be on the front of a chocolate box does not mean there isn't poverty hidden behind those hedges. Does not mean the lack of bus services means you cannot get around. Does not mean the cuts in public services don't affect you as well. And so we are developing our policies from the bottom up. People giving us their views, their opinions, their ideas, wherever they live in the country and whatever their situation. So we want to hear from all of you about the policies you want from a Labour government. But I'll say this, we want to support agricultural workers and the agricultural industry. We want sustainable agriculture in this country. We want decent rural bus services, and we want decent rural housing as well as small town housing for everybody. The days of not building council housing, not controlling the private rented sector and watching the social cleansing of our towns and cities go on will be over under a Labour government, because we will. And we're determined to achieve that. The National Health Service is our greatest and proudest creation as a Labour Party. And Aaron Bevan, a miner, was the health minister who introduced the National Health Service Act in 1947. We gained a National Health Service as a result of it. Healthcare as a human right, free at the point of use. It's something we take for granted. Millions of people, nay billions around the world, would love to have the same sense of health security that we've all been brought up with. So when they come after the NHS, by cutting, by privatising, by selling off and by criticising it, I say to them, we are the first and last line of defence of the principle of the National Health Service, and we always will be. We've been managing to drag out of this government the sustainability and transformation plans that they've been producing in secret all over the country. And we discover from that a number of things. One is every hospital is running a debt or a deficit. Every clinical commissioning group is struggling to provide the services that are necessary. Many pharmacies are in danger of closing. Many GP surgeries have long waiting lists. Many A&E departments are under serious threat. So as you have now, in the case of Grantham, an A&E department that's closed at night, therefore if you have an accident, you have a heart attack, you have a stroke, any major thing happening to you overnight, you've got to go much further. You go further, there's a greater danger, obviously, of what will happen to you. And that is happening all over the country. And so we have called next Saturday, November the 26th, NHS Campaigning Day. I've written to every party member, I've written to every constituency party, I've written to every affiliated union and say, get events organised next Saturday and onwards to alert the public of the dangers to our National Health Service. And we're expecting to have over 500 events all over the country. The media may not be reporting all 500 of them, but I tell you this, we're going to be out there on all the high streets and all the market squares, getting the message across that there are three aspects of the National Health Service that are very important. Firstly, the hospitals, the A&E departments and the doctors and the pharmacies. The principle of the National Health Service that is very visible and very important. And it's got to be properly funded and properly managed. It's not an attack on NHS workers, it's in support of NHS workers and what they do. The second part is on social care. The social care crisis that exists across the country, where there are too many very vulnerable people staying in acute beds in hospitals because the social care is not available for them. Too many people have to give up their jobs and their careers in order to care for loved ones because the social care system is not available for them. And too many care workers grossly underpaid and grossly exploited and morally blackmailed with working extra hours just to care for them. And so our campaign is also about the social care crisis all over the country. And we will be developing policies which bring in a high degree of integration between acute hospital treatment, GP treatment and social care. To me, they're all part of the kind of caring society we want to live in that supports people. And the third area is the mental health crisis. 1 in 4 of us in our lifetime are going to go through some kind of mental health crisis or stress. Some of us will get through it, some of us won't. And some of us will need help and support. But if, having come to the realization or having suffered a crisis of some sort, you're diagnosed as in need of support and help, it's no good if you have to wait 6 months for your first treatment and your first support. It's no good. Your condition will get worse. You're likely to get worse, and we all lose out on your skills, on your education, and all the other things that go with it. It's also the biggest killer of young men in our society, who tragically take their own lives because they're in a dangerous and lonely place, partly because of the stigma that we've allowed to grow up around issues of mental health. So we, as a Labour Party and a Labour movement, embrace people going through a crisis and a problem. We don't use disgusting words to describe people who are going through a crisis. Instead, we do what we said we would do when we amended the Health and Social Care Act to say there should be parity of esteem between the National Health Service in its normal medical sense and the mental health services in the crucial needs that they have. They should be properly funded, properly resourced and properly supported by all of us. The three prongs to our health campaign next week. Yesterday I was at our National Policy Forum in the university in Loughborough, and a lovely university it is too. The points I made there were quite simply this. In this post-Brexit era, in the election of Trump and all the other things, you could go into some kind of cycle of despair and say the only way forward is to blame somebody else. The only way forward is to turn on somebody else. Or instead, you can have the politics of hope, the politics of investment, the politics of support, the politics of community, the politics of unity. So it will be a Labour government that will come in, but on Wednesday we'll be challenging this government on its autumn statement. John McDonnell said to them this morning on the Mar programme, you may have seen it, he said to Hammond, OK, tell us you're not going to attack the poor. Tell us you're not going to take away the benefits from those with disabilities. Tell us you're going to reduce inequality in your statement on Wednesday, and we'll support you.
No.
Yeah. That was the reply. Well, we'll be putting it out there that the way forward for this country is to invest in the infrastructure we need, the improved railway lines needed through Lincolnshire and all over the east of England. Invest in high-tech jobs. Invest money in sustainable industries. Invest money in our young people, not force them deep into debt simply because they've tried to get an education for themselves. And put forward policies that are sustainable, that do protect our environment and do create those sustainable jobs that come from it. Our party is a huge organisation. of hundreds of thousands of people, all with creativity, all with ambition, and all with ideas. Our society and our country is the same. So I want to see an economy that grows and works for all, an education system and a health service that provides for all, and embrace the imagination, the cultural values of everybody. How about every child getting a chance to learn a musical instrument in school, for example? All these things come together as the kind of programme we're putting before the people of this country. In this by-election, you've got a chance to have those discussions on every doorstep, to win people over to a different way of doing things. The politics of hope, the politics of unity, the politics of creativity, that surely is something far better than the aridity and the nastiness of a gulf between the rich and the poor and a blame culture in society against every minority. We are here for the unity of all people. Jim is here to represent all of us in taking that fight to the Tories, to UKIP, to the Lib Dems,